What is up, everybody, and welcome into Studio de Jeffrey. We're in a hurry this morning. We got a tea time. But I do need to thank everybody who checks out the videos every day, because once again, in the comments, I got about 50 different questions for today's video, so it makes the content super easy. So just check the YouTube page and leave in the comments what you'd like to talk about the next day so that I can have topic ideas for you folks. It's going swimmingly so far. Let's see here. Today, we will start with from Italian/Cowboy. He said, Jeff, with our depletion of the interior D-line, do you see us maybe double dipping at that position? And yes, totally. I could totally see it. The hard part about the NFL draft at this point is you don't really know what their needs are because you don't know what they're going to do in free agency. This will tie in to a couple of other questions that I got from you guys, including from Bill Matrinko and I Am the Sheepdog, who Bill wanted to talk about free agent targets and anybody you see him targeting, and Mr. Sheepdog said, are there any potential free agent defensive tackles that might be a good fit for the defense? So listen, I'm going to just rip through free agent defensive tackles that are unrestricted free agents right now, and this is in order of their salaries last year, but I just want to give you an idea of the defensive tackles that are available on the free agent market right now. Ready? Michael Brockers, Mike Daniels, Bo Allen, Jordan Phillips, Michael Pierce, Shelby Harris, Xavier Williams, Jack Crawford, Christian Covington, Al Woods, Vernon Butler, Brandon Dunn, Damian Square, Timmy Jernigan, Austin Johnson, Josh Morrow, Ashawn Robinson, Jaron Reed, Danny Shelton, Damata Pico. There's a lot. There's a lot of really good ones. And that's true. D-tackle is probably where it's the deepest, but you got good players available at a lot of positions in free agency, and the Cowboys have the money this offseason to be a player. They'll be squeezed a year from now, but right this second, they've got money to be a player, and they can figure out what they want to do with their money. Between the guys that they want to bring back and between guys that they'd like to add, they can do a lot here. And that's what makes it hard to project what's going to happen in the draft. Would I enjoy them taking a couple of different defensive linemen with their first two picks? Absolutely. If the right guys are available, absolutely. But there's also a chance they shore up that interior with the free agent class, and then you might thinking about other priorities. If Byron Jones is gone, corner's a priority. If Jeff Heath isn't back, safety's a priority to me. This team, maybe not. Maybe they think, hey, Xavier Woods and hopefully Donovan Wilson comes along, and that would be a nice little dream come true to have a couple of sixth-round guys that can hold it down for you. But we got to see what happens in free agency before we have any idea what they're going to do in the draft, and D-tackle might be the deepest spot in free agency. Clay Slocum, which would be the easiest to replace this offseason on a cost and availability basis? Dak, Amari, Quinn, Byron. Well, Dak would be the hardest because good quarterbacks are hard to replace. I know there's Dak haters out there, and that's okay. The conversation about what happens when he gets his $35 million a year, it's real, it's legitimate, what happens to teams once you pay your quarterback, but is Dak good as a standalone question is not debatable. Yes, Dak is good, and good quarterbacks are the hardest thing to replace. Although last year kind of threw a wrench into that when Gardner Minshew popped up and Drew Lock played well, and for a minute we thought maybe the Steelers were going to find a guy out of nowhere. But most of those fizzle out and don't work out. But, hey, maybe we're entering a time where offenses are making it easier than ever to be a brand-new quarterback in the NFL. After Dak, the hardest guy to replace is probably Byron Jones. There's a lot of teams in the league that just cannot find good corners, that just cannot cover. So there will be a team that's really going to covet Byron because he's a sure thing. He's a sure thing in terms of not getting you interceptions, but he's also a sure thing in terms of being a really dependable and really good cover guy. So he might be the next hardest to replace. Gosh, that's tough, though. Because Amari at his best is a no-doubt number one receiver, and those are really hard to replace. And Quinn was a double-digit sack guy, and those are really hard to replace. So part of that just makes me frustrated looking back at the last 3-4 years of Cowboy football that they never got the ultimate goal accomplished with a quarterback making nothing. And that last year, there's so much that was right about this team last year. So much. You had 2 legitimate pass rushers. People are going to complain about Tank's 5 sacks, but that's fine. They came up with some brand new studies about he also helped create a ton of sacks for his teammates, and he plays the run great. And this year he'll probably have 10 to 12 sacks, so calm down. Tank played fine. So much went right. You had multiple legitimate pass rushers. You had a top 5 offense in points per drive and points scored and yards, whatever you want to measure it by. You had a top 5 offense, and you did all of that with the worst average starting field position in the league, a bad kicker for most of the year, a terrible punter, no bad coverage teams, bad return teams, and they go 8-8. That was just really what a disappointing season last year was. Get it together. Fix the special teams. You win 2 more games. Let me see here. Chris Killens. Hey, Jeff. Chris from Brooklyn. You should make a video about Tyrone Crawford. If he gives us a Sean Lee discount, I think we missed him with the hustle and leadership. Versatility is everything in a hybrid scheme. I agree. Tyrone Crawford counts for $9 million this year. And if you cut him, I believe you save 8 of that. So you're tempted to do that as a front office when you're just looking at the numbers. But I do think that at least, well, let's talk about right this second. Right this second, he's the best right defensive end on the roster, and he's the best 3-technique defensive tackle on the roster. He's both. He's better than Tristan Hill at Tristan's job. He's probably better than Dorrance Armstrong and Joe Jackson at playing defensive end. And you could argue that they really missed his leadership. Thinking that the young guys were going to lead this thing and it was going to go great, to me, that didn't work out real well. I didn't see a team that responded to adversity well. I just didn't see a team that week in, week out was hungry to win football games. Let's see. Cash says, Dak getting help with the 3rd wide receiver with speed, and who are the top 6 defensive tackles in this draft? The receivers and the D tackles are something that I still got to work through. I haven't watched my 250, 300 prospects yet. But my favorite guys, I think everybody kind of knows at this point, Henry Ruggs at Alabama, Jalen Reagor at TCU, and KJ Hamler at Penn State. Those are probably my 3 favorite. Ruggs and Reagor. Ruggs might not make 17, and I think both of them are definitely gone by 51. Whereas Hamler, I've got as like a 2nd or 3rd round grade, which means you'd probably have to pick him at 51, but I'll find other guys too. There's speed receivers. There will be speed receivers to find in any draft, and this one's no different. There's going to be a lot of good ones to find. Top 6 D tackles, I don't have my board in front of me, but obviously Derek Brown at Auburn is number 1. Number 2 is Javon Kinlaw at South Carolina. My 3rd D tackle is going to be probably Jordan Elliott at Missouri. And then it'd be between Justin Madubuike at A&M and Neville Gallimore at OU for 5th. And 6th, probably Leki Fotu, Utah's nose tackle, if I'm remembering them all right. But that's 6 good defensive tackles for you. Thoughts on the 2019 draft class? This is from John Fulton. Other than Pollard, I think it was a bust. Do you see any other players from that class step up and contribute in 2020? I agree with you, and I think that's what makes so many contenders are made by, you can look back at what they did in a draft 3 and 4 years prior to when they're a contender, and you're going to see why. So many of their contributors are going to be making so little money that were drafted in those years. And from this class, Connor McGovern could still be a player. Will he be better than Connor Williams when this is really going to be his first year in football because he missed all of last year with a pec injury? I don't know. And other than that, I don't think there's a lot in that class that you look at and say, hey, this guy's about to show up. I don't see it from that draft class. And so it's probably a bust. Your 2nd rounder so far is definitely a miss. Your 3rd rounder, I'm still hopeful that McGovern can push Connor Williams and maybe replace him at some point. Tony Pollard, you drafted a backup to a highly paid running back. I hope that they can still find ways to incorporate him and play him more and use them together more often. But we'll see. That looks like a bust, and that puts the pressure on this year. They've got to be better drafting this year, so we'll see how that goes. Make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Turn on the notifications so you're not late getting all the latest Cowboy information. I appreciate you guys listening. Check 1053thefan.com every day. In the comments, leave what you want to talk about tomorrow, and I will see you then.